Not too long ago, crypto and non-fungible tokens were being touted as the next big thing, right? They had the eye-watering price tags to match, leading to an influx of people, many of them prominent figures, and yet, as of today, approximately 95% of all NFTs are worthless. So why? Before this video starts, if you want to learn more than just the broad strokes of cryptocurrencies and NFTs, I highly recommend watching videos from Folding Ideas, CoffeeZilla, and yeah, what am I supposed to do with that? Mooncat? Sure, why not? You're not gonna fact check me. When I say highly recommend, I do mean in a sense to implore you. There are going to be gaps in this video best filled with explanations. If only there were enough time left in my life. I should also point out I do not like cryptocurrencies, and this video is going to be biased against them for that fact. I don't like the current system I, nor probably you, live under, but when the Australian coal industry acts as a villain from Captain Planet, at the very least they make $1 in return, whereas crypto does the same thing 10 times worse, and instead of getting money, they get a Chuck E. Cheese token and hope that the value of it goes up. Which kind of leads into the first thing that many proponents of the technology insist, which is that the entire system is highly engineered at every stage in any conceivable way, which is why the system more often than not appears opaque to the uninitiated. On the technology iceberg, they believe themselves to be towards the bottom, whereas I would be over here, drowning myself instead of having to listen to them. Their beliefs are a lie, at least in considerable part. Cryptography, from which cryptocurrency takes its name, is complex, not just to the layman. You could, as a passionate enthusiast, spend months of your life in order to understand the topic less. It's not complicated because you don't understand how it works in practice or its associated jargon, it is just difficult to understand. But that's one part of the topic, and I'm going to argue the least important one. Not to its theory, without cryptography, how would Golem exist, or Golem old? In theory, it is entirely essential. Daily function, not so much, both to the people that use it and its place in culture. We all blast lightning through flattened squares of sand on a daily basis, but you don't pretend that using that to write a Word document makes you a prophet of the new age. When was the last time you heard any of these goons talk about cryptography? Right, where are the intricate discussions on SHA-256? In my bedroom, I talk in my sleep and I dream of encryption like a poet dreams of the night sky reflected in the eyes of those they love. The truth is, loyalists of the movement purport that the things that result from the complicated parts of cryptocurrencies are just as complicated as a way to justify the obfuscation of the things they actually talk about. This is because what they say, what they talk about, the words they use are irrelevant in retrospect. What appears at the time to be its own dialect becomes trivial to understand when you come to terms with the fact that everything crypto bros talk about is just to do with making more money. It is in some ways similar to describing the mechanical and engineering complexity of a professional bookmaking machine and trying to say that that same complexity applies to the fantasy smart book that it is printing, so that they can justify trying to sell it for abnormally high prices even though it has extremely limited usage. A book that you read for your own personal enjoyment, $20 to $30. A one-of-a-kind, permanently owned product that you will have indefinitely, that you can prove is yours forever, as a product of a complex engineering scheme and millions of hours of R&D. $10,000 minimum. Proof of work, blockchains, and pseudonymous transactions find their roots in cryptography and are considered by many to be the core origin of crypto, I assume with some of the 7 deadly sins mixed in there. And this assessment is fair. Those things describe Bitcoin. The problem comes from the fact that these things, like cryptography, seem very difficult to understand, a narrative many diehards are willing to repeat, as it makes the sector seem unbelievably complex and vast to apathetic investors with deep pockets. Many diehards assume this because they have been assured that their early investment is a sign of their foresight and intelligence, and yet they do not understand the technology, meaning it must be very complicated. They do not do this because they have decided it in a secret council meeting, but purely because it directly benefits them. Something complex is something very powerful. It has the power to change lives, to change the banking system, to change the world, and to do those things that nothing else can do. If it isn't unfathomably complicated, only comprehensible to wizards behind keyboards, if it doesn't magically solve the problems of the world, if it isn't better than the current system, if it doesn't have a point to exist, how will they pump the price of their meme coin? The blockchain is just a way to authenticate and record things on a peer-to-peer network. What it does and how it does it is not new. It is the combination of those two things. Still impressive, but it's not a Dyson sphere, and we would all be better off if we stopped pretending it was. The blockchain is not going to solve everything in the world just by existing. Having an immutable record of things is useful, but not the best in all cases, as is implied by this ad from Wealthsimple that compares crypto and the blockchain to the invention of wheels. It is a decentralized, append-only ledger fueled by the blood of our planet. Take it down a notch. Proof of work basically just means that the machines do very complicated maths to get a result that becomes official as long as the other machines doing the complicated maths come to the same result. And when that happens, you get some money. That's mostly what the people care about. You get some money. As a sidebar, perhaps the best example of people in the space's true intentions exists in Bitcoin mining farms, because doing this does not further the needs of the system. It doesn't encourage adoption, it doesn't do anything, but it does make them a lot of money, and this is by far the majority of the usage that the system gets, is just people trying to make money. Now, after about a billion years, Ethereum finally switched to proof of stake, which is the same system but lowers the amount of computers doing the work as to not use the same electricity of a small country validating transactions. This is being very simplistic, but generally the computers that can do the work are required to lock up around $80,000 to participate and in turn earn more money, which is a strange system for people claiming to bank the unbanked and solve the woes of the financial industry. Don't get me wrong, proof of stake is better. Proof of work was basically just wealth inequality because you could just have more computers doing more work and it excessively wasted power. Now it's just wealth inequality that wastes a lot of power and appears to slowly accumulate resources at the top. Groundbreaking. The anonymity part, or as I've been referring to it, pseudonymous, refers to the fact that the thing that you place the currencies in isn't like tied to your name. You don't need to hand over your ID. It is instead a unique serial of characters. And that is permanent, but it is impossible to tell who owns it until they start linking it to other databases that themselves have more information. This is very cool in theory, but again, many zealots do not care or understand the theory, or perhaps both. They want to make money, they want to make it easily, and they want it to be convenient, to sign on once and just be done with it. And as a result, they link so much information that their wallet can end up connected to more personal information than their bank account. If you have not heard of this before, you may think I am being overly simplistic. My least favorite person at work said that crypto is supposed to be the most advanced technology in the world, necessitating its adoption in video games, every tech firm, and at some point, all money. And it all seems so simple when you describe it so quickly. There's still time for sarcastic jabs in between. As is the crux of the entire system. When you actually explain it, said system seems remarkably underwhelming before you even factor in its flaws, let alone the people that surround it, who are really interesting to talk to at parties. According to a report from Dat Gamble, I assume it is called, NFTs have, in the vast majority of cases, lost all of their value, or such a tremendous amount of it, it would be difficult to say they truly have value at all. This is, by the way, not some old money, deep research investigative website. This is a site that promotes crypto gambling. Like, they have every reason to mislead you, but at some point, $0 is $0, no matter how many times you say AI or Web3. One of the more interesting parts that they point out in this breakdown is that collections aren't separated into valuable and not valuable. There are collections that have an average value that is very high, but a very low floor and a trade volume that could be diagnosed as comatose. This is remarkably easy to check as well. Within 10 minutes of looking, I stumbled across Dreadfuls, which I assume is named for how these things look. Yuck. As of writing, the average 24-hour price is about 330,000 AUD, which sounds very impressive if the Australian dollar was worth anything, but the floor is closer to $50, and when I dug a little bit further, you can tell that there hasn't been a single sale worth at least one Ethereum that isn't just these two accounts wash trading this ugly piece of junk. While this isn't representative of every NFT collection, it is undeniably quite common, and in some twisted way, one of the better outcomes, seeing as while the real daily volume is about $50, at the end of the day, someone's getting $50. It is remarkable how many of these projects have clear and obvious red flags when viewed through the prism of a reasonably sane human that would describe their numeracy IQ as about yay big. One of the more traditionally appealing collections I found was Pudgy Penguins, ranked number 7 on CoinMarketCap's top NFT collections, if that means literally anything to you. Its value is trending kind of up. It has a high valuation, high floor price, genuine market activity, and the team behind it appears to have a plan for profitability that isn't just like AI and magic. And yet for a potential investor, there are still considerable hurdles, one of which being a low trade volume due to a genuinely staggering entry price, despite the fact that this is not a partitioned investment. It is just one thing. While the team behind it is using the brand to break into more consistent and profitable markets, none of that is integral on the thing you're selling being an NFT. If the main profit of the company comes from selling plush penguins, this stops being a groundbreaking endeavor and starts being a company real goddamn quick. Anyone from the outside may also have honest questions as to how the success of a line of plushies is in any way going to increase the value of like a picture, aside from generic brand association. Every project has claimed that the NFTs or tokens will allow some kind of profit sharing or staking or residuals, and they have all failed completely. So like, what makes this one different? This is the most prominent trend among NFT collections and is one of the easiest factors to point out as to why many of them are worth nothing. And that is that, for the most part, they don't do anything, right? Like they can't. This is straight up ignoring the gargantuan list of collections that have ended up as rug pulls or some other form of scam, because that would be considerably weighted in my favor, although not unfairly. If the vast majority of NFT collections are scams or failed projects, then that is what NFTs are. We are talking about the minority of exceptions because I need to make this video a little bit longer. These are not exceptions off their own merits. These collections are not the ones that made it all work, true pioneers of Web3. They are just getting to the same place slower. Captains has a reasonably successful line held up on the shoulders of the fact that it is about a year old and it's difficult to ascertain the plausibility of the team fulfilling their promises when those promises are about as vague as a dream whispered on the winds. Matrix's NFTs haven't plummeted from releasing a bad game because 2/3 of their games don't even have a release date yet, and definitely not Valorant doesn't seem to have too bright of a future, as its success potentially lies in the hopes of not being sued. This applies to both of their collections, despite the information on the website for one of them being, which raises another oddity that hinders their ability to hold value over long periods of time. Despite the constant claims that NFTs are this complex investment into the ownership of a unique thing, they, in general, much like myself, have already peaked early. This is opposed to traditional investments into boring things like renewable resources and infrastructure, where the thing exists first and then allows people to invest based off how valuable people think they are, with the intention of accruing value over time. As much as I hate the economics of Silicon Valley and startups, and I consider most of them to be scams, at the very least it makes sense. You burn a bunch of capital and you make a loss in order to prove that there is a market, that there is value, and that you could eventually earn a profit, and then you open your doors to investors, to the stock market, and you let people buy stocks, and sometimes you just sink. The only time I can remember NFTs being added to an already existing product as a way to own part of it and in some way tie your financials into the future of the thing was, and this is important, retroactive. Ubisoft added an NFT marketplace whose financial justification was, at best, dubious, late into development of the game. Not so that consumers would have an accurate understanding of the NFT's value and would purchase it based off that, but because they didn't think about adding it when it released. Every other one of these NFT collections sell you the idea of being a community, of voting on the future of the project, or dividends, or something else they just made up. But the majority of them have no product as of recording. There are thousands of collections that are, as the graphic states, worth basically nothing, because as time goes on, the eventual end of NFT collections is failure, or stagnation due to very foundational flaws, not just with the NFTs, but the cryptocurrencies that they are minted on top of. This has been widely discussed. Factors like having value changes what they are, the fringe state of the technology means that the entire market is basically zero-sum, and there has still yet to be something that only NFTs can do that justifies their existence. I've mostly focused on collections that are close to their highest point of cultural significance, but just to drive this home, you need look no further than Axie Infinity. It is a play-to-earn game that received constant coverage, both positive and negative, seemingly from every video that has talked about NFTs. Dan Olson's video used it as an example of the inevitable failures of NFTs, generally and also while doing the thing that is unique to them. In his segment, he described the game as a capitalist hellscape whose market was always going to crash, since the way it was constructed and how people were encouraged to interact with it made it the only outcome, proving this by pointing out how drastically the currency used for minting new NFT characters has plummeted. He would be justified calling it a complete failure, if not dead, and when he posted that video, the main currency was valued at around $0.06. It is now worth $0.003, because when you factor in what makes things valuable, this is the only long-term outcome. Warframe has a semi-functioning economy with steady prices and regular influx of paid currency because people buy in wanting to get things that make the game more fun or aesthetically pleasing, not because they think they can make money. The NFTs themselves average single-digit dollars, a far cry from the height, and show no sign of ever truly recovering. This is extremely representative of the vast majority of old NFT collections and crypto projects in general, but currencies, stocks, and collectibles go through price fluctuations all the time. What makes this different, says the single person watching this video who really thought I was going to agree with him because I tricked him by being all pasty and white. Once NFT collections lose their value, it is gone forever. There has not been a single one that has ever made a true comeback. What hope does Axie Infinity have of recovering their economy other than driving up hype? There is no marketable use case for any of these NFTs that are bought principally as a way to make more money. They're not bought to own the art, that doesn't even matter. Hence, the catch-22 of the business model. The price will only go up if someone buys in. People only buy in if they think they can make more money, if they can make it valuable later. But the only thing Axie Infinity can point to is the fact that their currency is worth nothing. So why would anyone buy in? Now that's all I have. Thought it was worth making a little video clowning on NFTs and crypto because it's very funny. Because you can just make like apocalyptic predictions and just always be right. Thanks to the fellas for supporting me. Had a lot of fun making this. Changed my video making pipeline, the writing process, like it doesn't matter. I could have said anything. I've also been writing a videos thing on, I don't know, Yandere Dev. I don't know if I'll make a video. I don't even know if there's anything I could say that would matter. I'm losing touch in my old age. I've lost my edge. I've lost it. I've become dull like my joints. I don't know. Comment if you want a video like that. Other than that, I'll see you later.